welcome back to our Torah is for everyone, and we'll be doing Vayechi, which is the very last book of Bereshit. You know, when we went through the Bereshit, we read from at the very beginning the creation of the world by God and how where we fit in it. We went from Adam all the way to Noah with the destruction of the world because of the perversity of mankind. And then we've traveled 10 generations on to Abraham, who left everything behind that he knew to follow the one true God to the land, which would one day and is today called Israel. And we can choose to take these stories literally or allegorically, but ultimately their importance lies in what the Torah has to teach us about our daily lives. And here in Vayechi, we are going to be coming to the end of our forefathers, the end of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and now Joseph, who would be dying in this. He wasn't dying here, but the next one will begin that a new Pharaoh arose who did not know Joseph, and that's where we will begin to go into slavery. So, the Torah shows us that our heroes are very human. They have good qualities, they have bad qualities, and it's the hope. It hopes that we would imitate the good and distance ourselves from the bad. Rabbi always would say to us, it's so much less painful to learn from the mistakes of others, and how important it was to constantly examine ourselves and to acknowledge what we do and to take responsibility for our actions and to turn back to God to do teshuvah. No one but God himself, the Borei Olam, is perfect. And I know in this message that we're going to be listening to on Shabbat, our rabbi always said that life is a journey. It's not the destination. So the most important thing is that every day is a journey. And when we get to the end of our lives and we breathe our last, it's having us understand that death is only the new beginning, which is why in Judaism, when we say the Kaddish for someone, we don't celebrate the birthday of the person, we celebrate the day of their death. And Rabbi told us, and we'll hear it this coming Shabbat, about how birth is like a death. He would say that what happens when you take a fish out of water? The fish, obviously it dies. And that's exactly what happens when the baby is in the womb. The baby breathes like a fish. But then when the baby comes through that channel, the birth channel, for one moment, it stops breathing and it has to switch into the breathing from the umbilical cord to breathing on his own when the baby gets its first slap and they cry and they take their first breath. And he says that it's all about life, living life on this earth and learning how to choose. God said to us, our Creator told us, today I've given you the choice between life and death, between blessing and curses. And he wants us to know how important our life is and that our mere presence makes a difference. So as we read this last portion, Vayechi, let's look at the places where we could see how important each of our lives are. We're going to read about the blessings of the 12 sons of Jacob and what their lives meant. And we're the continuation to that. It's like Miriam and I would joke, it's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then Miriam and Peggy. And we are a continuation of our forefathers. So let me share the screen and let's begin this beautiful last portion.
Just one thing, where's Jerry?
I don't know.
I
guess he didn't come on yet.
Okay.
Okay, hang on a second. All right. Can you see the screen or no? Miriam?
No, can't.
Okay, let me share it. Okay, so we're reading it from the Sefaria, which, to tell you the truth, in many sections, I don't like the translation. I prefer the one from Mamre, but what I do is I check out the Hebrew, And it says, Vayechi Yaakov ba'aretz Mitzrayim sheva esrei shana. Jacob lived 17 years in the land of Egypt. And it's interesting because we know that at the age of 17, Joseph was taken away from him. And here, at the last 17 years of his life, he's going to have his son Joseph back again. So Jacob lived 17 years in the land of Egypt, and the span of Jacob's life came to 147 years. When the time approached for Israel to die, now remember Israel, he was renamed from Jacob to Israel. He summoned his son Joseph and said to him, "Please do me a favor. Place your hand under my thigh," which was a custom in those days. It was an intimate taking of a vow. "As a pledge of your steadfast loyalty, please do not bury me in Egypt." And I was wondering, why is it so important where he was buried? If our bodies go back to the dust, and God knows where we are. I mean, look how many millions of people were burnt in the Holocaust. God wasn't worried about their bones. He would resurrect them from the dead. Why was it so important for our forefather Jacob to be buried not in Egypt but back in the land? Does anybody have an idea about that? Miriam, you keep going back.
Yeah, I know, I didn't, sorry. I don't think, I'm just talking as I think now. I don't think it has to do with the fact that God knows, well, our souls doesn't matter in that sense where we're buried. I
Right.
think it has to do with the continuity and an attachment to the land and the special gift that God has given us as a people, has set us aside, and it's intimately attached to the land. So
Yes, that sounds very good to me. I don't know, Richard, if you have any ideas about that. But I also know that even when I'm thinking of getting a burial plot, I'm thinking of doing it close to my own parents, so when the family comes, because families come to visit, and it's always this idea of continuity, of a connection with our people and our
right.
land. There are
Where
many
were your parents buried? Which
here in
de
the
la
last,
Savane?
yeah,
Okay.
my grandparents are there and their grandparents.
Right,
No,
right.
no, their grandparents are not there. They were in Kiev. Um, Please do not bury me in Egypt. When I lie down with my ancestors, with my fathers, take me up from Egypt and bury me in their burial place. Joseph replied, I will do as you have spoken. And he said, swear to me. And he swore to him. Then Israel bowed at the head of the bed. And I think that it was important for him to get Joseph to swear to him, because otherwise the Pharaoh may not have allowed that to happen. But if the Pharaoh knew that Joseph had sworn to his father, having an understanding of how important it is to honor your parents, he would have allowed him to do that. Sometime later, Joseph was told, your father is ill. So he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. When Jacob was told, your son Joseph has come to see you, Israel summoned his strength and sat up in bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, El Shaddai, who appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, blessed me. Here again we see El Shaddai, which is the name of our God, the nurturer. He is introduced, he is still known here. Later on, we're going to see that he's always referred to as Yud He Vav He, the creator, the one who acts in history, the one who is the strong God, the protector, the shield. Here he's still the nurturer, like the idea of a breastfeeder at the beginning of our nation where we were still children. And said to me, I will make you fertile and numerous, and make of you a community of peoples. And I will assign this land to your offspring to come for an everlasting possession. So over and over and over in the Torah, over and over through Genesis, we see that God is giving us this land. We didn't steal it. We didn't buy it. It belongs to him, and he could give it to whomever he wants. Now your two sons, who were born to you in the land of Egypt, before I came to you in Egypt, shall be mine. These two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, it says, shall be mine no less than Reuben and Simeon. Reuben and Simeon were the first two sons of Jacob, and now Joseph's two sons, for his first and second born, would also be like, it's as if they were his sons. That's how important they were. But progeny born to you after them shall be yours. In other words, it seems to hint here that Joseph may have had other sons, but it's not recorded. They shall be recorded instead of their brothers in their inheritance. I do this because when I was returning from Padan, Rachel died, to my sorrow, while I was journeying in the land of Canaan. So it shows here that Rachel did die in the land of Canaan, but Jacob couldn't leave all the flocks and all the herds and all the children and the people to go and bury Rachel in the cave of Machpelah. So she was born a short distance. She was buried a short distance of Ephrat, which today lies in the Judean hills. And I buried her there on the road, which is now on the road to Bethlehem. Noticing Joseph's sons, Israel says, who are these? When he saw the sons, I guess he didn't see them very often because he didn't know who they were. Joseph said to his father, these are my sons, whom God has given me here. Bring them to me, he said, so that I may bless them. Now Israel's eyes were dim with age, and he couldn't see very well. So Joseph brought them close, and he kissed them, and he embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, I never expected to see you again, and now God has allowed me to see your children as well. So Joseph brought them out from between his knees. He bowed low with his face to the ground. Now somebody asked me about this whole thing between his knees because they thought that at this age they would have been in their 20s. But some of the sages say that they could have only been 10 or 11 years old at this point. We don't know exactly how old they were and what was when exactly Jacob died, how old Joseph was when Jacob died. It doesn't say. But if they were hiding behind his legs and Joseph brought them out, they were probably still quite young. Joseph took the two of them, Ephraim with his right hand, to Israel's left, and Manasseh with his left hand to Israel's right, and he brought them close to him. So we see that Ephraim, Joseph put Ephraim first. No, Joseph put him on Israel's left because he was the younger one, and Manasseh he put on Israel's right because he was the firstborn. But Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, even though he was younger. And his left hand he put on Manasseh's head. So he crossed his hands because Manasseh was the firstborn. So he was switching it around. And he blessed Joseph, saying, notice that he didn't bless the two boys here. He blessed Joseph, the God in whose ways my father Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd from my birth to this day. And that whole idea, when you think about it, this God, the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, has been our shepherd from our birth to this day. Remember that. In the same way he was with our forefathers, He is with us no matter what we're going through. Jacob went through a lot in his life. Abraham went through a lot, and so did Isaac. But God is our shepherd from the day of our birth to the day of our death. Hamalach, the angel who redeemed me from all harm, bless the boys. In them may my name be recalled. The names of my father Abraham, my fathers Abraham and Isaac, may they be teeming multitudes upon the earth. That's the same blessing that God gave to Abraham, that they would be fruitful, that they would multiply, and they would be like the stars of the sky. When Joseph saw that his father was placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, he thought this was wrong. So he took hold of his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's. And Joseph said, "Don't do that, father, for the other is the firstborn. Place your right hand on his head." But Isaac objected, saying, "I know, my son, I know. Manasseh too shall become a people, and he too shall be great. But his younger brother Ephraim shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall be plentiful enough for the nations." And I thought about this because I was looking later on, I was examining the lives of Ephraim and Manasseh. And some of the descendants of Ephraim, it says Ephraim shall be greater.
Okay, Google.
Baruch, please put yourself on mute.
Jewish year in 1949.
Okay, I'll do it. Baruch, please stay on mute, okay? If you're going to keep talking. Unless you have something that you want to add to what we're saying. So what I looked at here, I was looking at the offspring of Ephraim and Manasseh. And I see that, hang on a second, let me find it. From Ephraim and Manasseh would come kings. A descendant from Ephraim was Joshua and Deborah, who were two. Joshua took over after Moses, and Deborah was a judge. And so these were good. But later on, we have King Jeroboam and King Ahab, the husband of Jezebel. These were wicked kings who were known for their idolatry, for choosing fear over faith, and for abandoning the Torah. So just because someone is known to be great doesn't mean that they're going to be godly. And I spoke about that when I was looking at the story of President Trump. And I like President Trump. I like the things that he's promising to do. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that all his choices are going to be godly. Because ultimately, he's still part of a Christian kingdom. And the Christian kingdom right now is still worshiping a God who comes in the form of a man. And the Torah teaches that no man can be God, that ultimately the only God is the God of Israel. So these were some of the ideas that came to my mind when I was looking at this. Israel said to Joseph, "I'm about to die, but God will be with you and bring you back to the land of your ancestors." So he's telling Joseph, he's about to die, but God will be with you and he will bring you back to the land of your ancestors. So he's telling Joseph that he will also go back, even though in this lifetime, Joseph would not be able to go back to the land. But in the same way as his bones would be brought back, so would the bones of Joseph. Now I assign to you one portion more than to your brothers. This is Joseph, because from Joseph would be made two tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh, which I wrested from the Amorites with my sword and my bow. So there aren't 12 tribes. There are actually 13 tribes. Jacob called his sons and said, "Come together, that I may tell you what is to befall you in the days to come." So here what he's saying to the boys, that he's going to prophesy about the future. But when you read what he says, it's more about their characters and who they were in the past. And there's too much to go into with all this. It's a whole other separate story. We'd have to look at the prophecies. We'd have to look at the past to see what happened to them. It says, "Listen to Israel, your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn." He was the firstborn of Leah. "My might, the first fruit of my vigor." So in other words, this was the first time that his semen had entered into a woman. Reuben was his firstborn, exceeding in rank and exceeding in honor, but unstable as water. You shall excel no more. He was impulsive, and for whatever reasons, our rabbis give us different reasons, but he went and he laid with Leah's concubine Zilpah. "And when you mounted your father's bed, you brought disgrace. My couch he mounted." So Reuben lost the right of the firstborn. The second two, Simeon and Levi, are a pair. Their weapons are tools of lawlessness. "Let not my person be included in their counsel." They didn't come to Jacob to ask his advice when they went in and they destroyed all those men, all the men who had raped Dinah, and all the men in Shechem. "Let not my being be counted in their assembly." He was embarrassed about what they had done. "For when angry, they slay a man, and when pleased, they maimed an ox." In other words, they were tough guys. But look who was with Moshe. When Moshe was up on Mount Sinai receiving the 10 Commandments, and God said, "Get down because your people are into idolatry." And he went down and he saw them worshiping the golden calf. And Moses said to the others, "Who is with me?" And it was Levi who was right there with him, who took his own sword, Levi and those who were with him. And how many men 3,000 died that day who were worshiping the golden calf. Levi was able to redeem what he did back in Shechem. God always gives us a way to redeem ourselves when our hearts are willing. "Cursed be their anger so fierce, and their wrath so relentless. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel." And later we would see how the tribes of Simeon and Levi were scattered among the others. Eventually there would be the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom of Judah, and all the northern kingdom would disappear into the others, and into the southern there would be one tribe left of Judah. "But you, Judah, your brothers shall praise." He is the fourth son, and he would be in the line of King David, King Solomon, and our sages say the line of King Mashiach. "Your hand shall be on the nape of your foes, and your father's sons shall bow low to you." Judah is a lion's whelp. On prey, my son, have you grown. He crouches like a lion, like a lioness. Who dares to rouse him? And this is a messianic passage. "The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, so that tribute shall come to him, and the homage of people shall be his. One day all the nations shall come to worship at the feet of King of Judah." Even Yeshua came from the line of Judah. He tethers his donkey to a vine. This talks about the vineyards, the fruitfulness, his robe in bloods of grape. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth are whiter than milk. Here it's his eyes are redder than wine, meaning that when you drink a lot and you're filled with wine, your eyes become red. Your teeth are white like milk. Judah will be so blessed in the end times. Zebulun shall dwell by the seashore. Maybe that's why I love the sea. Maybe I come from Zebulun. He shall be like a haven for ships, and his flank shall rest in Sidon. Issachar is a strong-boned donkey, crouching among the sheepfolds. When he saw how good was security and how pleasant was the country, he bent his shoulder to the burden and became a toiling serf. Dan shall govern his people. Dan is justice, as one of the tribes of Israel. He shall be a serpent by the road, a viper by the path, that bites the horse's heel so that his rider is thrown backwards. And here is a sentence. Here is, I wait for your deliverance, O Yud He Vav He. And deliverance is Yeshua Techa. We're all waiting for that, this deliverance. Every one of us. And this, in the times that we're living in now, sometimes we can get so discouraged. We see the fires, we see the earthquakes, we see the evil that's spreading, the craziness of the ideas, the woke mentality, the politics. And we pray, oh God, we're waiting for your deliverance in the midst of this blessing. God shall be raided by raiders. It's interesting what it says here, because God means, where is it? Where did I write it? Good fortune. When Leah had God, she said, God has given me good fortune. But it also means that they went to fight, because look what it says here. God, Gadud, Yigdenu, Vayhu, Hagud. This word, God, is repeated over and over and over. Shall raid at their heels. So that word is repeated, and it's about God would be one of the great fighters of Israel, bringing fortune to the land. Asher's bread shall be rich, and he shall yield royal dainties. Maybe this is where we get all our good cooks and our bakers.
I think that's my tribe.
Your tribe is Asher, mine Zebulun. And Naphtali is a hind let loose. A hind is a deer, which yields lovely fawns. Joseph, it says, is a wild donkey, but that's not what it says in the Hebrew. Look at it says here. Ben Porat, Yosef ben Porat. The same words, ben Porat, Yosef ben Porat, which has to do with being a graceful son, and attracts the eyes that see him as a fruitful bow. I don't know where they get this, a wild ass, a wild donkey, or wild colts on the hillside. Sometimes there are more interpretations than what the Hebrew actually says. And obviously, I don't do the studies that our rabbis do, but I don't always agree with what they say. Archers bitterly assailed him. They shot at him and harried him. It means he suffered a lot, but his bow stayed taut. His arms were made firm with everything that he went through. He became stronger and stronger by the hands of the mighty one of Israel, of Jacob. There the shepherd, the rock of Israel. So when we're going through tough times in our lives, we are being made stronger by the God of Israel. He's holding on to us, and we can rejoice in that. The God of your father's house, who helps you, and Shaddai, who blesses you, who nurtures you with blessings from heaven above, blessings from the deep below, blessings from the womb, the breast and the womb, the nurturer El Shaddai. The blessings of your father surpass the blessings of my ancestors to the utmost bounds of the eternal hills. May they rest upon the head of Joseph, on the brow of the elect of his brothers, because Joseph was chosen to go through all that in order to save his people, his brothers and his people. And here, Benjamin, the last child that we know of, the last son of the 12, is a ravenous wolf. In the morning, he consumes the foe. I never thought of him as that. In the evening, he divides the spoil. We thought of him as being the youngest little spoiled brother, but he was a tough guy. All these were the tribes of Israel, 12 in number. And this is what their father said to them as he bade them farewell. So you see, it wasn't about a future. It was talking about who they were, their characters, addressing to each part a parting word appropriate to him. What I love about the Torah is that it doesn't whitewash our heroes. It lets us see them for who they were, because God is continuously showing us we are not perfect. We fail time and again. He's the only one who's perfect. And when we go to him and we acknowledge the things that we do, he lifts us up and he lets us start again. He is such a wonderful God. Then he instructed them, saying to them, I am about to be gathered to my kin. Bury me with my ancestors in the cave which is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, the cave which is in the field of Machpelah facing Mamre, in the land of Canaan, the field that Abraham bought from Ephron the Hittite for a burial site. There Abraham and his wife Sarah were buried. There Isaac and his wife Rebekah were buried. And there I buried Leah. It's interesting. And the love of his life, Rachel, was not buried there. The field and the cave brought from the Hittites. When Jacob finished his instructions to his son, he drew his feet into his bed, and breathing his last, he was gathered to his kin. Joseph flung himself upon his father's face and wept and wept and wept and kissed him. Joseph ordered the physicians and his servants to embalm his father. See, sometimes when we're living in a foreign land, we need to obey the laws of the land. And in this way, especially because of his father, because Joseph was second in command to Pharaoh, it was up to him to do what he had to do. In Israel, it would have been within 3 days he would have been married. But here, he allowed the physicians to embalm Israel because it was required of him. And it required 40 days, for such is the period of embalming. And then there was another 30 days of mourning. 70 days it took. Imagine 70 days before Israel could be buried. And when the period of mourning was over, Joseph went to Pharaoh and he said, please do me this favor. Lay this appeal before Pharaoh. It's like he's doing this before the whole court of Pharaoh. He's not went directly to him, but he acknowledges the court at the same time. He understands protocol. My father made me swear. I'm about to die. Be sure to bury me in the grave which I made ready for myself in the land of Canaan. Now therefore let me go up and bury my father, and then I shall return. Pharaoh said, go up and bury your father, as he made you promise on oath. So Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went all the officials of Pharaoh, the senior members of the court, and all Egypt's dignitaries, together with all of Joseph's household, his brothers, his father's household, but not the children, and not their flocks, and not their herds. They remained in Goshen. Pharaoh was certainly not going to take a chance that they would all want to remain in this land. So he sent also chariots and horsemen. His guards went with him, and it was a very large group of people. And when they came, here it says Goren, the threshing floor of Ha'atad, they held there a very great and solemn lamentation. And he observed the period of Shiva, 7 days for his father. When the Canaanite inhabitants of the land saw the mourning at the Goren Ha'atad, they said, "Wow, this is a solemn mourning on the part of the Egyptians," which is why it was named Avel Mitzrayim, which means mourning of the Egyptians, which is beyond the Jordan. Thus his sons did for him as he instructed them. His sons carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, the field near Mamre, which Abraham had bought for a burial site from Ephron the Hittite. After burying his father, Joseph returned to Egypt, he and his brothers, and all who had gone up with him to bury his father. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "What if Joseph still bears a grudge against us and pays us back for all the wrong that we did him?" Now listen to this. This is important because here we see that Joseph's brothers still didn't believe that Joseph had forgiven them. How often do we not feel forgiven by someone,
Even by ourselves.
even by ourselves?
It shows you that it's such a long process because, when we read, the different chapters, you can't put a time element to it. Like, okay, they meet, they forgive him, blah, blah, blah. But the process has just started. And here you see they still, I don't know how much longer after this is.
This is 17 years later.
Oh, all of this is 17 years. Oh, yeah.
17 years.
Yes, that's right.
At least.
Yeah, you're right. That's right. They
Because
just
it
said, right,
was
right.
17 when he brought his children for the blessing, but we don't know how much longer after that.
But I
We
mean,
don't-
yeah, but it's a long time since the brothers came and settled in Goshen.
Exactly.
So we know you can't see that just in reading it. It's at the surface of it. It doesn't convey the passage of time. And here you see, and we have
Exactly.
to see in our lives that things are a process.
Yeah.
We
And
think we've
sometimes,
forgiven ourselves or others, and it's a process.
yeah, well, I see that because I'm going through that right now, where
Okay.
I think I say that, oh, I've forgiven this person, and then something happens and it brings up the anger in me again.
Right.
I haven't let it go. I haven't forgiven. And that could make us sick. But here,
Yeah, that's for sure.
yeah, and here
But I
there
mean, there has to be the willingness to forgive, because it's really, in some ways, we can't just say, "Oh, I forgive." It's not the words. It's so deep that we don't even know the full mechanism of it. We
yes.
have to do it in partnership with God, I really believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that too. And here it says, "Say this to Joseph, forgive, I urge you, the offense and guilt of your brothers who treated you so harshly." So here they're admitting very often the person who's done us wrong, they they don't admit that they treated us harshly. They don't admit the things they've done, which makes it even more difficult to forgive. But forgiveness really is an inside job because sometimes we'll never have the satisfaction of the person admitting it. But we
Right,
have to forgive ourselves for us.
right.
Please forgive the offense of the servants of the God of your father's house. Joseph was in tears as they spoke to him. His brothers went to him themselves, flung themselves before him, and said, "We are prepared to be your slaves." But Joseph said, "Do not fear. Am I a substitute for God?" I like one of the things here that it says, let me just go here, the commentary, because I liked one of the commentaries. Was it Ibn Ezra? No, that wasn't even Ezra. Is it Ash? For am I instead of God? This is Rashi. Am I perhaps, do you think that I am in his stead? Even if I wished to do you harm, would I at all be able to do so? For did you not all design evil against me, and you did not succeed, because the Holy One, blessed is he, designed it for good? How then can I alone, without God's consent, do evil to you? See, God is behind everything. Besides, although you intended me harm, God intended it for good, so as to bring about the present result, the survival of many people.
This is
And
one of the strongest verses in the whole Tanakh, I think. What what it says, what God has meant for good. I mean, here it's worded when it's even if at its most poetic, but here you could see the meaning of it. It's such a meaningful verse.
right, because sometimes things happen to us that other people may not realize why they were doing it. And if I go back over my life and I see how some instances I was so hurt, so distraught, and so destroyed, and yet it brought me to where I am now. Would I know God in this way if I hadn't gone through those things? So what they may have intended, and or maybe not even intended for harm, and maybe they did, I don't know. But God intended for good. God does turn things around. So for that alone, we can let them go. We can say, yes, God, I'm so grateful for everything that you've done. I don't think we realize, because the greater Jewish community and many people that I know all think, oh yeah, God exists. He's up there, but he doesn't have anything to do with us anymore. We're on our own. That's not what the Torah teaches. We are not on our own. God is always present in our lives. And so fear not. Oh, if we could just learn that. Fear not. I will sustain you and your dependents. He will take care of us. He will watch over us. Be assured, he reassured them, speaking kindly to them. So Joseph and his father's household remained in Egypt. Joseph lived 110 years. Joseph lived to see the children of the third. He became the great-grandfather of Ephraim. The children of Machir, son of Manasseh, were likewise born on Joseph's knees. At length Joseph said to his brothers, I'm about to die. God will surely take notice of you and bring you up from this land to the land promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is a prophecy. God will remember us and bring us out of Egypt to the land that he promised, which he did. So Joseph made the sons of Israel swear, saying, when God has taken notice of you, when he remembers you, you shall carry my bones from here. And Joseph died at the age of 110 years. He was embalmed and placed in a coffin in Egypt. Joseph died in Egypt. His bones were not taken out of Egypt until the children of Israel left under Moses. What a beautiful, beautiful story.
So interesting how, I mean, we have customs and traditions and even biblical ones. The firstborn gets the blessing of all these things, and the inheritance. Can't talk. The inheritance that passes to the firstborn, and you see that still it's in God's hands. If the secondborn is the one that God chooses for, the inheritance or for blessing or to be the leader or whatever,
Yeah.
it's, things don't automatically work the way we think they should.
And rarely in the Torah.
Yeah, it's funny.
Judah was the fourth born.
Right.
Joseph was the 11th.
then with Manasseh and Ephraim.
Exactly.
Yeah,
God is the one who chooses in
Yeah.
every instance. And
yeah,
we don't always know why. He knows the heart. Look at King David. King David was the youngest of all the brothers when they were looking for a king to
right.
replace Saul. And he was the out in the field. He wasn't that tall and handsome like the others. He was ruddy. He was a shepherd. He protected the sheep from the lions and the bears. God knew his heart and his strength.
Yeah,
It was beautiful. Just a beautiful portion.
yeah. I love those chapters.
Yeah, they are wonderful. And now we're ending this book and we say Chazak, Chazak, v'nitchazek. Be strong, and be strengthened. And how often do we need to hear that? Especially when we live in fear and we're living in a world.
Prisoner.
Pardon?
Her outfit, black and white stripes, is the prison outfit.
Oh, you're talking about Miriam's
Wearing.
top?
What she's wearing, that jersey,
Yeah.
it's prison outfit,
Well,
black and white.
the prison outfit is up and down. That's sideways, Brian.
No,
Bye
it
for
is
now,
the.
Richard. Take care of yourself. Stay safe.
Bye, Richard.
Bye.
So yeah, it's beautiful portion, and we've learned so much from the book of Bereshit.
I was born on Christmas. I had a bar mitzvah on Christmas.
You had your bar mitzvah on Christmas. Isn't that wonderful?
Well,
And you were born on New Year's.
yeah,
Yeah.
because back in '62, it was on a Tuesday, but it was before the first.
Okay. Good. So I'll go back to saying Chazak, Chazak, Benit Chazek. Be strengthened, be strong. And we need that. We need to remember that, especially when we're pulled down by the events of the world. Uh, we always have to remember. One of the things that I pray is because I love my creature comforts. You know, I like to live in a warm house and
Yeah.
good healthy food and be taken care of and for the most part I am. But when we look at, take a peek into the world and we go, oh my God, what's going on there?
Another
No,
thing, my name Brian means shiny.
Baruch means shiny. Baruch,
In French, it means shiny.
good, but we need it means blessing in Hebrew. Brian, you are the king of non sequiturs.
By the way, here's another non sequitur. Then I'll let. I spoke to Rhonda, and we talked about, well, obviously both Bubba, etc., and about what's her name? Star is back to in good shape.
Yes, I understand. That's definitely a non sequitur. That has nothing to do with our portion.
Well, Star's going to lead us out of Egypt.
Yeah. Well, he has to lead us out of Canada. I don't know where we're going to go. Maybe into the Judean hills.
But you know what? We do have blessings, but we have our own Egypts, even if we haven't, if you can't label it like, I mean, we all have our times which were like being in Egypt.
There's no doubt about it. We all live through our own personal holocausts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes, and I believe God is always walking there with us. If we could look back through our lives, we would see from the very beginning where God was guiding us. So, Jerry, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while, since last year. You doing well?
Has it been last year?
Since 2024.
I thought, when was when were we on that Wednesday?
Hanukkah was before.
Was before, right?
Yes, Hanukkah was around Christmas. No. I was right on the day we lit the 8th candle together, and the 8th candle
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
was
yeah.
on January the 1st,
Right,
Brian's
right.
birthday.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
So we
right.
celebrated the pagan year together with a Jewish festival. So I want to thank everybody for. Do you have any comments, Jerry, about this portion?
No, not right at the moment. Thank you for asking.
You're very welcome. Have you been doing well?
Moderate. Everything is could be moderate.
Everything is moderate. Okay, good. So I want to thank you again for being with us, sharing this time. It's so nice to have this time together. So we look forward to next week when we'll begin the book of Shemot, when there arose a Pharaoh who did not know Joseph. And until then, let's keep praying for each other. We pray for our for the wisdom of the leadership of our country so that we can live in peace. But mostly we pray for our people to turn back to God, because nothing is going to bring peace to this earth as it does when our people turn back to be who they were called to be, or Or Goyim, a light to the nations. So I wish you all the best. Thank you for joining us. God bless you all.
God bless you.